Good morning, everyone. This is Father Nate, missionary priest in Italy, and thanks for joining us today, February 21st, on No Greater Delight, our podcast on Marian feasts and Marian meditations. Well, today we have two different things we're celebrating today, and I have to be honest with you, I don't know exactly what the connection is with February 21st, because it doesn't appear that the apparitions or any events were on February 21st, but again, sometimes these are taken from Abbot Orsini, who just gives the feast and assumes we know why it's on that day. But no matter what, these are both good events to celebrate. The first takes us to Paimpol in France, where they celebrate Our Lady of Good Haven. So the story goes that in 1838, the crew of a vessel which had just arrived at Paimpol in France, there were 48 of them, accomplished a vow that they had made during a very dangerous journey from Newfoundland. So there had been a terrible storm, their sails were torn, and for 3 days they were in continual danger of finding a watery grave, we're told. In fact, the ship began to fill with water, and it seemed like they were going to die, when the crew, by common consent, turned their eyes to Mary, Star of the Sea, and asked for good haven. They promised that if she saved them, they would visit the church at Paimpol, where there's an image of Our Lady, very venerated by the people. And the story goes, they had scarcely ended their prayer when the weather became much calmer and the waves began to subside. So, taking advantage of that providential change, they repaired their sails and had favorable winds until they reached the coast of Brittany, right? So, the first thing they did when they finally touched ground was to throw themselves on the ground and give thanks to God for their return. They then began intoning the Litany of the Blessed Virgin Mary, and advanced barefooted and bareheaded along the banks and through the streets at Paimpol to the Church of Good Haven, right? The people were attracted in crowds by the novelty of the sight, and they followed them. There were parents who went to thank Our Lady of Good Haven for the return of their sons, wives to thank Mary for the restoring their husbands. Tears streamed from every eye, and it says that the immense multitude knelt down before the altar of that powerful Virgin who had received power from her Son to command wave and wind, right? Very beautiful. It says the story ends with the mariners joining and singing the hymn Ave Maria Stella, right? Hail, Star of the Sea. The second thing we celebrate today is Madonna delle Cese in Altrari in Frosinone. Again, it's not entirely clear what this has to do with today, but it's a very particular shrine, right? It's a beautiful shrine in a beautiful location built on a deep cave, right, in the Rotonaria Mountains, right? It's said here that the lady appeared to a pious hermit in the 11th century, right? Again, even according to, well, in the 11th century, I guess the shrine goes back to, that just contradicts itself here. It says that according to a very ancient tradition, popular tradition, in the first half of the 6th century, a pious hermit, start there, he had gone into this grotto of the Cese, where Our Lady appeared to him and left her image impressed on the rock, right? And so, as the years went on, successive hermits would go there and they would find that same grotto and the same image, right? So it said that in the 12th century, in the second half of the 12th century, Cardinal Lotario from Segni had a family villa in the area, and he would go there to pray, right? Now, the story is told that one time the cardinal was there, and he saw a bishop, a Cistercian prior, and a Roman widow, jumping into heaven, right? And so the cardinal asked his co-workers, and they said, yes, at the time that you had that vision, those 3 people that you saw were really dead. They really died, and they were dead, as we say, in an odor of sanctity, right? Because of that, Cardinal Lotario promised to found a Cistercian monastery there, right? He became Pope Innocent III in 1198, and he did not forget that promise made. So they started building this monastery, right? There's a very long and lengthy tradition. And then finally it says, on the altar there, which was restored in 1909, there was an oil painting of Our Lady of Mount Carmel, right, set there. And because of that, that is the feast day of this shrine, so July 16th. Again, what it has to do with February 21st, I don't know, but that's what we will celebrate today in the Marian world. For today's Marian meditation, taken from the book by Father Ildefonso Villar, we're continuing with Meditation 40, entitled On the Road to Bethlehem. And today we'll consider the second point, the journey. It was rather long, about 5 days. It was hard, because the road is poor, and the beast of burden is not of much help. It was unpleasant, for December has its biting cold and merciless winds, its rains, and even snow. Try to accompany Our Lady for a little while. See her wrapped in a dark mantle, a veil over her face, St. Joseph by her side. He does not take his eyes from her, and sees to it that the humble beast treads the best portion of the road. Imagine the sweetness of the face hidden under the veil, her purity, modesty, and recollection, all harmony and heavenly beauty, all sanctity. Other travelers who can do the journey faster and more comfortably overtake and pass the little group. They go by criticizing and cursing Mighty Scissors' order. But Mary proceeds wrapped in ecstasy, all transfigured, thinking of the treasure she is carrying within herself. On the road, as well as at home, the passing life around her does not touch her soul. She lives every moment with Jesus and for Jesus. How beautiful Our Lady's prayer would be during that journey. See the angels vying with each other to have the honor of accompanying her. You also should try to accompany your mother during the stages of that journey. Would you not like to help her to alight? To find her shelter in the shade of some palm tree? To bring her some water? Place yourself at her service, and even though you do all these services in a clumsy way, ask her not to despise you, but rather to take you into her company. Refuse her nothing, since she deserves everything. For today's reading from the Admirable Heart of Mary by St. John Eudes, we reach the conclusion of chapter 2 that we've been considering in these days, regarding the meekness, patience, and clemency of God mirrored in the Admirable Heart of Mary. So we'll conclude with just one final point, and then the saint gives us a prayer. The Abbot Blosius says further, as long as the time of grace endures, this merciful mother cannot avert her eyes from miserable sinners who invoke her with a sincere desire of conversion. With the heart of a mother and a sister, she continually offers up her prayers to God on behalf of men, and takes special care of their salvation. No one who shall invoke this Mother of Grace with devotion and perseverance can possibly perish forever. And now we'll consider this prayer that we have from St. John Eudes. O sweetest and most holy Virgin, look down with the eyes of thine mercy on all the afflictions and all the afflicted that fill the earth. Behold the many poor people, the many widows and orphans, the sick troubled with so many diseases, the captives and prisoners, the thousands who are cursed and persecuted by the malice of men, the defenseless persons oppressed by the strong and the mighty, the seafarers and pilgrims struggling against perils on sea and land, the missionaries exposed to countless dangers in their task of saving endangered souls. Look down upon the number of afflicted minds, of anguished hearts, of souls tormented by manifold temptations, and of the souls suffering the frightful penalties of purgatory. But above all, have pity on the countless souls that are in the state of sin and perdition, and are groaning under the tyranny and the bondage of hell. Finally, O gentlest of virgins, take pity on the great number of wretches who people the universe, whose innumerable miseries are so many voices crying to thee, O Mother of Mercy, Comforter of the afflicted, Refuge of sinners, open the eyes of your clemency to see our desolation, the ears of thy bounty to hear our supplications. To thee do we cry, poor banished children of Eve. To thee do we send up our sighs, mourning and weeping in this vale of tears. Yes, Eve's miserable children, banished from the house of their heavenly Father, groaning and weeping in this valley of tears, have recourse to your incomparable benignity. Hear our sighs and our cries. Behold our weeping and our tears. Turn then, O most gracious Advocate, thine eyes of mercy towards us, and after this our exile, show unto us the blessed fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Hello, and we hope that you enjoyed listening to our Marian podcast. In the spirit of Saint Bernard of Clairvaux, we say to you that there is no greater delight than to spread the devotion of Our Lady. We hope you share these sentiments and encourage you greatly to share with a loved one. Know that you are always in our prayers, and we ask that you keep us in yours. God bless.